Director Higgins abruptly called for me while I was cleaning my desk. I had considered leaving without saying anything more, but I grudgingly went to her office after she called. Then she revealed something shocking. "Mr. Incompetent, take over the $15 million deal." Above all else, I wanted to stop being controlled by her. Furthermore, it appeared strange to give such a large project to a worker who was almost fired. I no longer tolerate Director Higgins' capricious decision-making, even if her father is the EVP. "Can I see the documents?" I asked her when I made up my mind. She smugly handed over the documents, mistaking my intention. I flipped through and verified my suspicions. The person responsible for that document already had my name in the column. The date, though, was from a few months prior to the announcement of my termination. Why now was she bringing up this deal? I spoke up strongly, understanding her goals. "You've expressly named me, therefore it's impossible. I'll excuse myself since I'm getting fired. Kevin Johnson is my name. I work for the corporation and am in my late 50s. It felt odd to realize that more than half of my life had already gone by when I started working for this company as a recent graduate. Moments seemed to have flown by at the same moment. I enjoyed my days as a salesperson in the beverage manufacturer's sales department. Nevertheless, the sales department was split into sales and marketing as the business grew. I am currently in marketing, where I was assigned. The division that develops strategies to sell goods is called marketing. Marketing concentrates on marketing to the market as opposed to sales, which deals directly with contracts. Marketing must comprehend the behavior of new clients and develop commercial plans, whereas sales interacts with existing customers. I was initially perplexed by the discrepancy, but I was really pleased when our carefully thought out and detailed plans worked. Some, however, did not sell at all, while others unanticipatedly struck a different target demographic, regardless of how much I studied the industry and advertised my products. Over time, the intricacy of marketing captivated me. Despite my advanced age, as a senior member of the department, I have always made an effort to interact as much as possible with the younger staff members. They have come to speak candidly and amiably with me. I really value the relaxed and open environment where everyone is free to express their thoughts. Indeed, the young employees' perspectives are vital. Their quick grasp of trends through social media is impressive. Something becomes incredibly popular one moment, and then suddenly, no one talks about it anymore. Keeping up with the rapid changes and trends is a tough task at my age, but it's part of the job. An alien who's an incomprehensible enemy can become a helpful informant once they're on your side. Kevin. A young male employee approached me. "What's up?" I asked. "Our competitor company had a major blunder online yesterday." "Really? What happened?" I tried to keep up with the news, but I often missed smaller stories. "Seems like they messed up with their tagline," he explained, showing me the trending post. Really? "Yeah, I saw this yesterday. This is a no-go. It's outdated, not something that would trend nowadays." As I was talking, another female employee happened to pass by and join our conversation. "So it's a no." "Yo, definitely a no," the two of them agreed, nodding. That was a close call. We were actually considering going in that direction with our project. Guess we should drop it then. I had decided to change the tagline of the project I was working on. It was better to go through that hassle and to face a public backlash. That's a good idea. It'll definitely cause a stir. Lately, these kinds of things have received much negative attention. It's better to avoid them, I think. Thanks to everyone, from the juniors to the mid-level employees, who openly shared their opinions, our marketing department had been working in a great atmosphere without major mistakes. However, this harmonious work environment was about to change due to the personnel reassignment. Every year, our company undergoes staff reassignments, and this time was no exception, with significant changes. A woman in her 30s replaced our easygoing and always smiling director, who had been watching over us. Lisa Higgins was somewhat of a celebrity. Rumors were that she got into the company through connections as the daughter of the EVP and had been doing whatever she pleased in various departments. In fact, she was known to favor and be kind to those who praised her, but would ruthlessly push out anyone who disagreed or challenged her. Since the announcement, I feared what would become of our department, filled with people who always speak their minds. My bad feeling turned out to be spot on. To get approval for a certain project, I went to see Director Higgins, my boss. This project was the result of meticulous discussions with the staff, considering the opinions of the sales team, and finally coming together. We all felt confident in it and were just waiting for the go-ahead to start production. She glanced through the project proposal and carelessly tossed it aside. "What is this? It's completely no good. Could you please specify what's wrong?" Interpreting my insistence as defiance, Director Higgins glared at me sharply. "A bad project is just that, bad. Redo it. Could you please advise me on which side I should start redoing it?" I asked, confused. Her response was cold and blunt. "I said the whole thing. This project is rejected." "Wait, please. Can we at least discuss the content a bit more?" I pleaded, but she ignored me and walked out of her office. I had to tell everyone about getting a negative response from Director Higgins, and we set up a new project meeting. Since we had a fair amount of confidence in the previous project, the mood in the meeting room was gloomy. In the midst of this, a cheerful voice rang out. "What's with the glum faces, everyone? I've come up with a great idea." The plan she proposed was so outrageous that it was doubtful any market research had been done. Even a fresh graduate could come up with something better. We all sat stunned, listening to Director Higgins' presentation. After a while, a young male employee hesitantly raised his hand. "Sorry, but what are the persona settings for this project?" "Persona? What's that?" "I'm talking right now, so no need for your unnecessary input," she retorted and returned to her presentation. Persona, a basic marketing term, refers to a detailed and concrete image of a customer. It was evident she didn't know this. While listening to the poor presentation, everyone quietly exchanged glances. The team was confused. When she finished and asked if there were any questions, I raised my hand after some thought and spoke up clearly. "Sorry, Director, but we can't go forward with this project." Her demeanor changed instantly. "What do you mean?" "To be honest, this project is not viable as a marketing plan. Market research is crucial, and..." At this point, Director Higgins let out an exaggerated sigh. "You don't get it." "What don't I get?" "Your own position," she said coldly, looking down on me. "What does that mean?" I began, but Director Higgins interrupted before I could finish. "You're fired. Don't bother coming in next month." Normally, a director couldn't just fire an employee on their own, but being a connection-based hire, she must have had some influence I couldn't contend with. And so, I was suddenly fired from the company I had served for over 30 years. Despite my confusion and sadness, there was no reversing the dismissal. Eventually, I decided to move on, using my remaining leave to search for a new job. I only had connections at my current workplace, but thanks to a friend who helped me out, it looked like I wouldn't miss my meals. At my age, my only concern was for the colleagues I was leaving behind. Regrettably, today was my last day. I had hoped to chat with everyone before leaving, but that didn't go as planned either. While I was tidying up my desk, Director Higgins suddenly called me. I was planning to resign without talking to her anymore, but since she summoned me, I reluctantly headed to her office. Then she dropped a bombshell. "Mr. Incompetent, take over the $15 million deal." Confused about a handover on my last day, I asked her for clarification, only to hear an unbelievable response. "I'll forget your firing ever happened, for now. So, can you start on this deal right away?" Though having my dismissal reversed might seem positive, I already had another job lined up, I couldn't just ignore the arrangements made with my new employer. More than anything, I didn't want to be manipulated by her anymore. Handling a large project worth $15 million to an employee who was just fired was also somewhat strange. Even if Director Higgins' dad was the EVP, I couldn't stand her making arbitrary decisions like this anymore. I reached a decision and asked her, "Can I see the documents?" Mistaking my intent, she smugly handed them over. Flipping through, I confirmed what I had suspected. My name was already listed as the person in charge of that document. However, the date was from several months ago, before I was told I was being fired. Why was she bringing up this deal now? Understanding her intentions, I spoke up firmly. "It's impossible. Since you specifically named me, and I'm being fired, I'll excuse myself." "What? You're turning down a $15 million project?" she exclaimed. "Yes. To be precise, I can't accept it under your leadership. I'll be handling similar projects at my new job." "What?" At my words, Director Higgins stood up abruptly, making a loud noise. Her disheveled appearance was something I had never seen before. "What do you mean?" she demanded, slamming her hand on the desk. I sighed and began explaining. When I was fired, I first consulted a former colleague from sales. He was originally meant to join the marketing department, but chose to return to sales instead. Now, he was a sales director at another beverage company. I still went out for drinks with him and valued his advice as a senior in job transitions. He listened quietly to my story, then casually offered, "Why don't you join us?" "Really? Is that okay?" I was taken aback but grateful. He seemed to be on good terms with the HR director at his company and told me he would try to talk to him. Things moved quickly from there. I never expected to transition so smoothly at this stage of my career. I had secured a job at a competing beverage company, assigned the marketing department. It felt like a stroke of luck. During my interview, the HR director asked me something. They wanted to know if I knew about a major project that had recently started. It was a much-discussed plan of forming a business alliance with a rival company. The money involved was substantial. Due to the alliance between rival companies, it was a hot topic in the industry, so I had heard about it. However, I didn't know the specific details. When I said so, the HR director looked puzzled. According to the records, I was involved in the project. Surprised, I instinctively said that couldn't be. But then it made sense. This project had indeed been officially brought to our company's attention. The project was initially addressed to me, but Director Higgins had covertly tried to take over, later deciding to let go when it became too much. Her attempted usurping was bad enough, but not seeing it through was worse. Her attitude towards work infuriated me. She had likely climbed to her position through power and by claiming others' achievements. Realizing how poorly she had handled the situation, I let out another deep sigh. Director Higgins, who had been listening to me, started trembling and then shouted, "That's unacceptable. You must take this project." "But even if you say that..." Frustrated that I had no intention of taking over, the director turned back to the staff and said, "Are you running away? If you leave, the remaining members will handle it. You are such a bastard for leaving your colleagues." Feeling like my colleagues, who had helped me so much, were being held hostage, I was lost for words. But then something happened. Everyone's attention was captured by a figure entering the office. He was a man dressed in a finely tailored suit, exuding a dignified aura. "That's enough, Lisa," he said. It was EVP Higgins, Director Higgins' dad. Director Higgins took a step back. She hadn't expected her dad to intervene. "Mr. Higgins." I was equally surprised. EVP Higgins was a man I rarely saw around the office. He rarely visited the marketing department, if ever. Despite knowing it was my last day, I hadn't expected him to come. "Sorry about this, Kevin. My daughter has caused you trouble," he said apologetically. "No, I never expected you to come," I responded. "Well, I do love my daughter. I've looked the other way until now, but I thought it was too much this time. I don't even know how to begin apologizing to you." Saying that, EVP Higgins politely apologized. "Please, no need to apologize. Why are you doing this for him, Dad?" Director Higgins' expression as she said this was filled with anxiety and seemed frightened. "You shouldn't say such a thing about Kevin. We were colleagues in sales," EVP Higgins corrected her firmly. "I had a long-standing relationship with EVP Higgins from our sales days. Since he became an executive, we rarely saw each other inside the company, but he occasionally invited me for drinks. I had been in contact with him during my paid leave and had explained the whole situation regarding this incident. But Dad, I am this person's superior. Thinking you can do anything just because you're the boss is a grave mistake." EVP Higgins raised his voice, causing Director Higgins to visibly flinch. "Lisa, you've gone too far. You're an adult, a professional. I'm sorry, but you'll have to face the consequences, even as my daughter." "Wait, Dad, I haven't done anything wrong." Pale-faced, Director Higgins clung to her father. "I've been listening to you guys outside the room. Using your mood to dictate someone's career is unacceptable. You're not suited for leadership." "That's not true. I did well in my previous department," Director Higgins insisted, tears in her eyes. "You've always climbed the ladder by taking credit for others' work. That's not real work. It's time to stop playing house." "It's terrible to call it playing house. I was doing it properly." Despite Director Higgins' tearful plea, EVP Higgins turned his back on her, not listening. "I will report this matter to the president myself. It's my fault for letting it go this far. Kevin, I'm truly sorry for what happened. I hope you can fully utilize your abilities in your new position. I'm praying for your success. Thank you. If it's okay, I'd like to go out for drinks again." EVP Higgins smiled narrowly at my words, leaving Director Higgins in tears as he exited the marketing department. Not long after my resignation, Director Higgins' fate was also decided. She was demoted and transferred to a remote sales office, a clear case of being sidelined. EVP Higgins voluntarily offered to cut his own executive compensation. The marketing department team, as usual, was voicing their opinions freely and seemed fully engaged in their planning meetings. They appeared to be quite satisfied with their new boss, and the emails I occasionally received from them sounded cheerful. I hope they never forget that honesty and continue to have fulfilling days ahead. Kevin. A young male employee approached me while I was looking at my PC. "What's up?" "Check out this post. It's going viral." "What? Which one are you talking about?" This one," he said, showing me his cell phone screen. Wow, so many comments. "We did it. This will definitely be a topic of conversation." Reading through the numerous comments, I couldn't help but strike a victory pose. This photo came out great too. The male employee chuckled at my words. "What? What's funny?" "No, it's just, I always forget because you talk so casually, but there's quite an age difference between you and me, Kevin. I just felt a bit of a generation gap there." "Where? What part?" In my flustered state, he dropped a cold one-liner. "That's a secret." "Why? Tell me." "Can't do that." The male employee grinned and walked back to his desk. "What's that all about?" I muttered, still not understanding where the generation gap lay. I turned my gaze back to my PC. Since my job change, a few months had passed. Even though I was still in the same industry and marketing department, the internal systems and ways of working were, of course, different. Learning everything new at this age was quite challenging. Lately, everyone, from the young to the senior members, has started to talk to me more openly. It was a great joy to work in an environment where everyone had strong opinions and we could learn and grow from each other. The $15 million project is still ongoing. Ultimately, My trusted colleague at my former company took over my responsibilities, which was a relief. Seeing each other at meetings has become one of my joys. Since my career changed, I've realized there's still so much to learn in marketing. Despite being older, I'm still a newcomer here and eager to absorb as much as I can. Kevin, the meeting is starting. Hearing my colleague's voice, I quickly stood up from my seat. All right, I'm on my way. With a spring in my step, I headed to the conference room. I wonder what ideas will be shared today. Filled with anticipation, I opened the door to the meeting room.